You know, I would always have like different haircuts, different looks. It's one of the things that I think drove like my managers or agents crazy in Hollywood because, I do a photo session and then like I wouldn't look like my pictures, I'd lose 10 pounds and shave my head, or I put on 15 pounds and let my hair grow out. I was always changing my look up, grow a mustache. And I found that I didn't have trouble changing. I enjoyed it, right? Mixing it up. I call it mixing it up. You got to mix it up. But people have more trouble with the changes about me than I had with me. Does that make sense? Like, I found it like when I would make changes in my life, it'd be harder for people to accept those changes or deal with those changes. I'd cut my hair and people are like, dude, what you do to your hair? Sometimes I get a positive comment like, man, your hair looks great. When I grew the mustache out, that drove people nuts. They either loved it or they hated it, begging me to shave it. I can't take you seriously. I can't look at you. It was a really interesting observation from my end to see how people responded to these physical, cosmetic alterations that I would make. And then when I started doing kind of the hard stuff, quit smoking, it's been 10 years, over 10 years. Quit smoking. I found that all my friends used to smoke, and when I stopped smoking, I found that I didn't have those friends anymore. A couple of them quit with me, thank God. And same thing with drinking. When I dramatically cut back on drinking, I found that my friends kind of disappeared or changed, or some of them, thank God, cut back on drinking too. I think part of the reason sometimes we don't make changes, change is hard, right? We all get stuck in our routines and habits. But I think a part of change that we don't really talk about is we're afraid of what people are going to think of when we make that change. And ultimately, whatever change you make, it's got to be right for you, right for your family, and ultimately right for God, right? I mean, for those of you that have known me for, well, as long as you may have known me, I've gone from a lot of anger and a lot of banging my head into walls, a lot of that stubbornness, a lot of that, I'm just going to break down these walls, to a lot of prayer and contemplation and figuring out what God wants me to do for me. I mean, I don't think God is talking to me and telling me, hey, cut your hair this way, or hey, bench 225. I think God is telling me to bench 225, but I think God, Jesus, is kind of guiding my heart and my soul and pointing me in a direction. And when I follow that direction, I don't always understand the path, but when I do follow that direction and just open myself up to the journey, wherever it is I end up, I'm typically happy, and I'm typically got a better haircut. Do what works for you, but better the question, ask yourself, what does God want me to do? What works better for God, right? It's not always like, when we're kids, we say, what do you want to do when you grow up? The right question, I guess, is what do you think God wants you to do when you grow up? What do you think God wants you to do when you grow up? Not what do I want to be when I grow up? What does God want me to be when I grow up? And coming from that position, who loves you, baby? Your boy, AMJ.